I got a comment basically asking me to talk about the Sextuple. I wasn't going to talk about it at all. I wasn't going to talk about winning the Club World Cup because we played poor. We played terrible. And nobody cares about that besides me. Nobody cares about that besides me. I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, well, if we played this bad, I don't like it at all. People are just like, "Ooh, we won a trophy, good jobs," and I'm just like, I don't want to spoil your party, so I'm not going to talk about it. But oh well, it's a day later now. People should have gotten it out of their system. It should have celebrated it out of their system. So let's talk about it a little bit, just a tiny little bit, because the achievement itself is historic. It's amazing. The performance, not so much. So the achievement, the Club World Cup to me is honestly pretty irrelevant, if I'm being completely honest. It's a title. If it's a title, if it's a trophy, then it's there to be won. But as a whole, it's irrelevant to me. It's completely irrelevant to me. Like, if you ask me in 2 years' time whether I'll remember it, I won't. I don't even remember the 2013 one, and that one, I felt like, was that? Yeah, that one I felt like was more historic. Not obviously because it wasn't a sextuple or whatnot, but it was more historic to me because I think I was writing about this one. I was writing a match report for this game, so like, it kind of sticks out a little bit. No, actually, I didn't. No, I didn't. Well, did I? I'm not even sure anymore. But it sticks out a little bit more to me because of how the team, went through a historic trouble, and then we switched manager and we kind of had the same progression. This one was good. It was good. I'm not complaining about winning the trophy. Again, it's a trophy that's there to be won. For me, it's just another game that, honestly, I didn't like the whole tournament, if I'm being completely honest, because we got Müller, who's now got COVID, and more games, and an already super tight schedule. We've got important games coming up both for the league and the Champions League. And then you put in a little tournament. It's only 2 games, granted, but you put in a little extra tournament, side tournament. It's like, is that really the perfect time? I get it; it has to be done. I actually quite like how the tournament was run, I have to say. Fans being allowed in. Hopefully, the numbers. We'll only find out 2-3 weeks in the future, but hopefully the numbers will show that it was handled in a good way. Maybe like bringing forth a path of how fans can come back into the stadium. But I did like that aspect. It felt very. It must feel quite strange having fans back in the stadium. Congratulations to the team, and of course Flick. Grievances aside that I have with the team and Flick, honestly, as well, where I feel like we've been this whole season, we've not really played well at all. But the thing is, we're still getting the wins, and you know what? I have decided myself, this is going to be the last video on this topic, but I've decided that I will not talk negatively on this channel anymore. I won't criticize the team anymore. So if you've seen a lot less videos, just know why. Because I talk about our performance this whole season, and it feels like there's like 5, maybe 10 people that agree with me, and the rest is basically doesn't care because we're winning. Which I feel would be a very much different situation if you weren't winning. If we're playing the same way that we're doing right now and we weren't winning, I feel like the talks would be a lot more different, because we're still grinding out those victories. Now, some may say it's because of the individual quality. I have to sort of agree with that, but at the end of the day, the team is still so. The thing is, actually, as well, just talking about the Club World Cup a little bit more. I actually quite liked how we played in the first half in the final. I thought we played very, very smart. I thought there were a lot of interesting triangles that were going. There was a lot of interesting movements that were happening. But in the second half, I thought we were just atrocious. We were just straight up atrocious. Kimmich goal, unfortunate for it not to stand, but it was the right call. Pavard scoring, I'm kind of happy for him because obviously he's been going through tough times. As a player professionally, so this kind of being a goal that he needed was good to see. Hopefully that boosts his confidence. Again, at the end of the day, it is a tournament, and if you're helping your team win a cup, then that's always going to give you a motivational boost. So I'm hoping it does. Moving forward. Besides that, though, Alaba I thought had a very good game. As someone that's been like one of his biggest critics in terms of midfield, I thought he had a very, very strong game. Again, how much can you really read into it? Where would Tigres finish if they were in the Bundesliga? Say, I don't think that high, if I'm being completely honest. So I don't think it's much to go off of. They did well, they had very much like the motivation there, but I also felt like we were bad. Hey, let me stop talking about. Let me stop saying that we were bad, all right? Because damn it, we won a cup. There you go. Like, I've talked about it now. There you go. All right. No, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. Ultimately, though, we've got interesting games coming up. Obviously, we've got the game against Lazio coming up next week, which I'm looking. Actually, not next 2 weeks. Which I'm very much looking forward to. We've got an interesting game coming up on Monday. So there's a lot of interesting things happening in the club. It's we're heading into a very difficult period right now. Not difficult, but like a very important key period. We've obviously out of the DFB Cup. Who cares about the DFB Cup? I'm joking. The DFB Cup to me is actually, besides the Champions League, it's probably the most important cup. I know, like, Rummenigge always says it's the Bundesliga. I always go back and forth between, like, the Bundesliga and the DFB Pokal. But the reason why I always go back and forth is because the DFB Pokal, to me, just shows that, like, you can be up for it on a day, which, in a way, shows consistency in key games, whereas the Bundesliga just shows consistency over a key time frame. In this case, the key time frame being, you don't even need to be consistent for a whole season. You need to be consistent for about half the season, right? We've seen plenty of teams this season as well, who were very consistent at the beginning of the season. You have the likes of Leverkusen, you have the likes of Wolfsburg, even us, Leipzig, and then you see what happens with them, just useless after that. Bundesliga at this point, though, is honestly, it's a given. It's crazy. It's a given, right? It's a given, right? Like Leipzig, they're not doing anything. They are our biggest rivals, but they're not doing anything. Dortmund, forget them. Like, they're battling relegation. Forget about them. I've never rated them after like 2016, 2017. So forget them, right? Useless. Let's not talk about them. Leipzig, they're really our only real challenger for the Bundesliga. Leverkusen is never going to do anything. Vita, forget them. So it's really down to Leipzig and Gladbach. And Gladbach, they don't have the squad strong enough. And Leipzig, they're the only one I can see. But I didn't feel like they're strengthened enough last season. And I feel like they haven't really strengthened too much. Like, they get a lot of, like, good young players in, but I feel like what they need is, like, one or two, like, marquee players, marquee signings, players that are 27 but are world class. So not 27 and great, but 27 and world class. I think that they need one or two leaders, like real leaders in their team, in my honest opinion. But anyway, that's enough about that. The Pokal, we're already out. So it's the Bundesliga and the Champions League for the season. So let us see how this season progresses. At the end of the day, I do want to say this. I know I'm quite negative on this whole performance aspect because I've been hammering this home for like multiple years now on the channel. But to me, what is the most important is the performance, because the performance usually the trend is. We're not following that trend at all this season, which is why, like, my hypothesis is kind of completely odd and off, because usually, you play good, you win, and if you win, you don't necessarily play good, and it might just be a flash in the pan, it might just be a very quick, might just be a very short scenario, but if you're playing good consistently, you're gonna win more times than not. This season, that's not been the case at all. We've not played good. We've played like 4 games that were actually good, and the rest we've still won. So everything that I always said, everything that I always believed, everything that I always thought, wrong. Wrong. Anyway though, Club World Cup done. Historical achievement, good. But now we have still a very important rest of the season to go off, to play, and then we've got the Euros, which I'm actually surprisingly looking forward to, because I didn't care about the Euros at all. I don't care about the national team at all. The second Joachim Löw is out, that's when I'll care. But as of right now, I'll be honest, I haven't really cared about the national team that much because the fraud is still in charge. But surprisingly, I actually care about the Euros. Maybe it's because we're all in quarantine, and so there's not much. Well, not quarantine. We're all in lockdown, so maybe there's not much to do. And that's why football, just probably why I get so annoyed much more than usual about how we play football, because usually, I always look forward to us playing. Now I'm just like, I'm watching it, but I'm not like looking forward to it. I'm just like, Bayern is playing on Monday, okay, I'll tune in, but it's not like before. It was like, oh, how many hours? Ooh, it's like 12 hours left before the game starts. Like it's not quite at that degree anymore, because the football has just been mediocre, and I'm more stressed out than I'm actually like. I wouldn't say happy. Happy is probably the wrong word, but I'm more stressed out than I'm more intrigued, surprised, elevated, if you want to use these adjectives. But yeah, Club World Cup, Sextuple, 6 trophies in a year. I know technicalities. Who cares about technicalities? I really don't care about technicalities. I really don't care what most people say. If I'm being completely honest, most people. I hate agendas. I will say that right now. I hate agendas, and that's essentially what's happening with Bayern at the moment. Lewandowski winning player of the tournament. How? How is he winning play? Sorry, no, I said no more negativity. I said no more. Damn it. Okay, let's spin this in a positive way. The best players should win the individual awards. And Lewandowski, how do I spin this? Lewandowski is currently a household name. So even when he's just great and not fantastic, he still wins individual awards, because that's just how good he is. All jokes aside, though, Lewandowski should not have won that award. He was I didn't even notice he was playing, and that's the issue. He's been doing that for 2 months now, where he still scores goals, because quite frankly, no team knows how to defend nowadays. But he still scores goals. He still gets the penalties. He still gets goals. But for the last 2 months, he's been invisible, and that's frustrating, because he was so good at the beginning of the season, where he was involved in every single play. He was involved in every single build-up. He was there, dropping deep, helping out the attackers, then going further forward to link up and so on and so forth. Nowadays he is basically invisible. He's just a target man, but and then he wins player of the tournament, which makes absolutely no sense considering he was invisible all tournament. The 2 worst players on that pitch against Tigres were the 2 that combined to score, which is also kind of funny of football. Like Lewandowski, invisible all game, gets the assist. Pavard, who's had a shocking game, scores the goal. But you know what? Football is agenda driven. Players don't get individual awards anymore based on what they've done. They get individual awards nowadays because of their name, and that's just the fact of the matter. Lewandowski could do absolutely nothing, and then people would still give him. If Lewandowski did absolutely nothing all season besides score penalties, and Bayern won the Champions League somehow, then he would still receive the Best Player of the Year award. He would still receive the Ballon d'Or, because quite frankly, he's become a household name. He's become the name people associate with Bayern, and that's why he would win it, despite the fact that he wouldn't even deserve it. But that's a different story. Sorry. I said positivity. Let's talk about positively. Lewandowski is such an amazing player. He's such a household name. He's such a brand now, where, he's so above every other player that even when he's not shining as bright as he usually does, he's still miles and shoulders above every other players. Heads and shoulders above every other players, miles and miles apart, because he's just that good of a striker. Best striker of all time. So amazing. I think I'll leave it at that. So amazing. Positivity.